Can a goalkeeper without a club outplay 2 World Cup finals? Can a substitute nobody trusted win the whole tournament with one touch? This World Cup answered both. In the same 39 days, it also ended a golden generation and knocked out a 4-time champion who'd never lost a shootout before. 5 teams collapsed this summer. 5 players walked out of the wreckage as somebody new. Here's exactly how both happened. Before we continue, subscribe and hit the bell if you enjoy premium football stories like this. Round of 32. Germany controlled 78% of possession in the first half against Paraguay. They didn't manage a single shot on target in that half. That's the disaster in one number. Julian Nagelsmann's team could move the ball anywhere except into a dangerous position. Paraguay sat compact and waited. Julio Enciso headed in the opener. Kai Havertz leveled it. Then Jonathan Tah scored what looked like a winner in extra time. VAR ruled it out for a foul in the build-up. It went to penalties. Germany had never lost a World Cup shootout. They lost this one. Havertz missed. Nick Woltmade missed. Tah blazed over the bar. "I'm a little lost for words," Havertz said afterward. "All I can do is apologize." Paraguay had less of the ball and fewer clear chances. What they had was the composure to finish when it mattered. Germany didn't. Germany wasn't the only favorite that came apart in the tournament's first week. Round of 16. Brazil finished with 34% possession against Norway, the lowest number their national team has ever recorded in a World Cup match. Not the lowest against a great side specifically. The lowest, full stop. Norway didn't need the ball to hurt them. Erling Haaland scored both goals, his 14th straight appearance for Norway with a goal. Andreas Schjelderup set up both of them. Brazil had more shots, 12 to Norway's 9, but managed only 4 on target. That's the disaster in one sentence. A 5-time champion held the ball less than a third of the match and still couldn't convert the chances it created. Brazil's earliest World Cup exit in nearly 3 decades wasn't a fluke scoreline. A smaller footballing nation out-organized them twice in the same afternoon. Not every disaster on this list is about tactics. The next one is about power, and it has nothing to do with what happened on the pitch. Round of 16 again, and this one isn't about tactics. Folarin Balogun picked up a red card against Bosnia and Herzegovina that should have ruled him out of the USA's biggest match of the tournament against Belgium. After intervention from President Donald Trump, FIFA suspended the ban. Balogun started. He didn't register a goal or an assist. Charles de Ketelaere scored twice and set up another as Belgium won 4-1. Their federation openly trolled the reversal on social media afterward. Weeks later, an independent match integrity body flagged the episode. A betting market had opened asking whether Balogun would play. It opened on the same day he received his red card, the only one of 14 red cards that tournament to get that treatment. FIFA says investigators found no manipulation. What isn't in question? A locker room spent a week arguing about a decision that had nothing to do with football, right before the biggest match of their summer. One round later, in the quarterfinal against Spain, Fabian Ruiz put Spain ahead. De Ketelaere equalized. Mikel Merino, a substitute for the second straight match, scored the winner less than 2 minutes after coming on. 2-1, Belgium out. But the real story is what that scoreline closed. Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku, and Thibaut Courtois had played their final World Cup together. That run took Belgium to 3rd place in 2018 and kept them among the world's best for a decade. That generation was never an accident. It came from a federation-wide rebuild that began after Belgium crashed out in the group stage of Euro 2000 on home soil, back when the country had no clear idea how it wanted to play. This quarterfinal was the golden generation's last scoreline. Whatever Belgium builds next starts from here. And then the final itself. Spain against Argentina, goalless for 106 minutes until Ferran Torres won it in extra time. On paper, a classic. What happened after the final whistle is the 5th disaster on this list. Argentina had already gone down to 10 men when the referee sent off Enzo Fernandez for a reckless foul on Pau Cubarsí. After the whistle, Leandro Paredes grabbed Eric Garcia by the throat, then took Gavi down in a separate scuffle. Early reports said the referee referee had shown him a red card for it. FIFA later called that entry a data error and never issued a card. Gavi, on the receiving end, said afterward he didn't think FIFA should suspend anyone over it. But the image that closed out this World Cup wasn't Messi's final bow. It was a mass confrontation on the field where Spain had won the trophy minutes earlier. Here's the thing about that final whistle. The same match that produced Argentina's ugliest moment produced somebody else's best one. Ferran Torres had come off the bench past the hour mark. Nobody was talking about him going into that night. By the time it ended, he was the reason Spain has a second World Cup. If you're enjoying this breakdown, tap subscribe now. It genuinely helps the channel keep making these. Torres wasn't a guaranteed starter. Pundits had criticized him hard during the tournament. Against Saudi Arabia, the video assistant referee had already chalked off one of his goals after a 3.5-minute delay. Then, in the 106th minute of the final, Pedro Porro's cross found Nico Williams. Williams' header dropped straight to Torres. One touch, left foot under the bar. It was Spain's 20th shot of the match after Argentina had managed 0 across the first 90 minutes. The goal belonged to 47 million people, Torres said. It wasn't just mine. Spain finished the tournament, having conceded a single goal in 8 matches, a record for a champion. They became the first nation to hold both the men's and women's World Cup at once. A backup striker's one touch is what people will remember. Now go back to the start of the tournament. The most unlikely story of the summer belonged to a goalkeeper who didn't have a club when it began. Josemar Jose Evora Dias, who goes by Vozinha, watched his contract with Portuguese second division side Chaves expire before Cabo Verde's first ever World Cup. He was 40 years old. He hadn't turned professional until 26. He'd played in 6 different countries along the way. He kept a clean sheet against eventual champion Spain in the opener, the oldest goalkeeper ever to do that in a World Cup debut. Across 4 matches, he made 18 saves, 15 of them against the 2 teams that reached the final. 8 of those saves came in a 3-2 extra time loss to Argentina, and Messi himself praised him for it. FIFA named him to the team of the tournament. His Instagram following went from under 50,000 to nearly 30 million. He still didn't have a club. Not every breakout story started from nothing. This next one started with a reputation to defend. Haaland is the player responsible for Brazil's disaster. His tournament deserves its own telling. Norway had never been past a World Cup group stage. Haaland scored in every one of his last 14 appearances for his country, including both goals that eliminated Brazil. He scored again in the quarterfinal against England, a match Norway led at halftime before Jude Bellingham dragged England back into it. Norway went out in extra time. By then, they'd already rewritten what people expected of this generation of the team. A striker people had spent years questioning and spent 3 weeks answering them. Speaking of that quarterfinal, Bellingham scored both of England's goals against Norway. The winner arrived in the 3rd minute of extra time, sending England to the semi-final for the first time since 2018. That wasn't his best night of the tournament. Against Mexico in the round of 16, he scored twice in 98 seconds. That made him the first player to score 2 goals at Mexico City's stadium in a World Cup match since Diego Maradona 4 decades earlier. His manager, Thomas Tuchel, had publicly challenged him before the tournament to deliver in exactly these moments. When reporters asked him about Bellingham after the Norway match, Tuchel answered in 2 words: world class. England fans serenaded him in the tunnel afterward. Some players get one big night at a World Cup. Bellingham had 4 in a row. 4 of these 5 breakout stars already have a World Cup medal or a final appearance to their name. The 5th might end up worth more than all of them combined. Ayyoub Bouaddi was an unknown 18-year-old before his World Cup debut, a Lille midfielder who'd switched his international allegiance to Morocco only months earlier. In Morocco's opening match against Brazil, he completed over 90% of his passes against a midfield that revolved around Bruno Guimaraes and Casemiro. Morocco reached the quarterfinals. By the time they got there, Manchester City, Manchester United, Arsenal, Real Madrid, and Paris Saint-Germain were all reportedly checking on him. Reports pegged his valuation valuation near 100 million euros. Lille's own president compared him to two midfielders who'd fetched transfer fees over 100 million pounds each this summer and argued Bouaddi was worth more than both. 3 weeks ago, almost nobody outside France and Morocco knew his name. Put these 10 stories next to each other and a pattern shows up. Germany's collapse cost them more than a match. It opened the bracket for Paraguay. Brazil's disaster and Haaland's breakout describe the same 90 minutes from opposite benches. Argentina's ugliest night and Torres' best one happened in the same match, minutes apart. A World Cup crowns a winner, but it does more than that. It takes certainty away from some teams and hands the opening straight to whoever's standing closest when it happens. That's not a poetic reading of the results. Look at the scorelines. Somebody else's name sits on the other side of every disaster on this list. Four-time champions went out on penalties to a country that had never won one. The most decorated nation in the sport recorded its lowest possession ever. A golden generation played its last match together. A World Cup final ended in a brawl instead of a celebration. And on the other side of all of it, a clubless goalkeeper on FIFA's team of the tournament, a substitute striker who came off the bench to win it all, and a teenager who hadn't played for Morocco 2 months before he became one of the most valuable midfielders on the planet. That's what happened this summer underneath the scorelines. Subscribe if this is the kind of football story you want more of. Some of these 5 players are about to define their national teams for the next decade. Some of these 5 disasters are about to force real change before it happens again. And if you want the tactical explanation behind all of it, watch The Tactical Revolution that changed football forever. It's already on the channel.